Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are absolutely going to change the way you think about fish food. We're uncovering why the humble earthworm is a literal nutritional powerhouse for your aquarium and exactly how you can easily breed them right at home. You know, if you keep an aquarium, especially if you're trying to optimize the growth and, frankly, the highly sensitive digestion of a classic favorite like the fancy goldfish, finding the perfect natural food source is always top of mind. So we're going to dive deep into the science and the practical steps behind what is arguably one of the most effective yet completely overlooked live foods out there. Here is our quick roadmap for today. We're looking at nature's perfect fish food, the proof in the science, breeding worms at home, and finally, preparation and feeding tips. Let's jump right in. Section 1, Nature's perfect fish food, more than just bait. We really need to reframe our whole perspective on earthworms here. For most of us, they're just bait on a fishing hook or something we step over on the sidewalk after it rains, right? But biologically speaking, they're incredible. Just look at this quote from Yorkshire worms. They call them a protein-packed delight, pointing out that protein sometimes makes up 50 to 70% of the worm's dry weight. Think of them like nature's very own protein bars. Protein is the absolute building block for your fish's growth and muscle repair. So dropping an earthworm in the tank isn't just a fun treat, it's a massive concentrated dose of vitality. Now, if you spend any time on aquarium forums, you've probably seen the argument that live worms are basically just bags of water. And sure, alive, they do hold a lot of moisture, but lab tests tell the real story. When you freeze dry an earthworm to remove that water, it reveals a staggering 68.6% protein content. Add in 7.1% oil, nearly 10% ash, and essential nitrogen, and you realize that gram for gram, the dry matter of a backyard earthworm actually competes with and often entirely beats the most expensive premium commercial feeds on the market. And it gets even better. Beyond that raw protein, feeding your fish earthworms delivers a massive boost of secondary nutrients. We're talking high calcium for bone formation, iron for oxygen transport, and crucial omega-3 fatty acids for brain health. But here is the absolute game changer, especially for our goldfish keepers out there. Goldfish lack a true stomach and are notoriously prone to digestive blockages. Earthworms actually harbor incredibly beneficial probiotic bacteria. So when your goldfish eats the worm, they ingest those probiotics too, which actively promotes a healthy, moving gut, perfectly mirroring the natural diet they'd get in the wild. Moving right along to Section 2, Proof in the Science, Lab-Tested Results. Let's look at the actual empirical data. Anecdotes from hobbyists are great, but controlled aquaculture studies are where we find the hard proof. There was this fascinating 60-day study published in the ACL Bioflux journal looking at angelfish. They set up a few different feeding groups, but we're going to focus on two. Treatment 1 was a 100% standard high-protein commercial extruder diet. Treatment 3 was a 50-50 mix of that exact same commercial feed plus fresh live earthworms. So what happened? Well, while the commercial food alone actually drove the highest raw weight gain in the adult fish, the real magic was in the offspring. Check out the larval survival rate. The 50-50 earthworm mix resulted in the absolute best spawning, hatching, and a significantly higher larval survival rate of nearly 69%. That's compared to just under 58% for the commercial diet. The researchers concluded that adding live earthworms noticeably skyrocketed the overall vitality and reproductive performance of the fish. And hey, it's not just angelfish either. A completely separate trial looked at the Indian carp, Catla catla. Researchers fed these fish live earthworms bred directly from agro-waste vermicompost. The goal here was to see if the nutritional value of the worm actually transferred into the biochemical makeup of the fish itself. Basically, are the fish actually absorbing all this good stuff? The data says absolutely yes. Fish fed the live earthworms retained significantly higher levels of vital nutrients across the board. Look at the protein retention. It jumps from 65.56 milligrams per gram on the control diet all the way up to 75.31 on the earthworm diet. Carbs and beneficial lipids shot up as well. It literally proves that worms are a superior biological fuel. The fish utilize these nutrients so much more efficiently than they do artificial diets. All right, Section 3, Breeding Worms at Home, a constant supply. This is where it gets really practical for you. Knowing all these immense benefits, you're probably wondering how to get a steady supply without dropping a fortune at the bait shop every week. Good news, vermiculture, or breeding worms, is incredibly easy. You can cultivate species like red wigglers or African night crawlers right at home. And by doing it yourself, you control the environment. You know for a fact they're in safe, pesticide-free soil and eating clean kitchen scraps,
meaning zero risk of introducing lawn chemicals or weird parasites into your tank. Setting up your farm takes literally 3 steps. Step 1. Grab a dark plastic bin and drill 12 to 18 holes in the bottom. Worms need moisture, but they will absolutely drown if water pools up. Step 2. Fill it with a mix of organic additive-free soil and compost bedding. Shredded cardboard, coffee grounds, banana peels, you name it. Step 3. Keep it in a dark spot between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit and mist the top of the soil with tap water once or twice a week. Feed them your low-salt veggie scraps weekly, and within a few months, you've got a booming, self-replenishing food source. Finally, Section 4. Preparation and feeding tips. From bin to tank. So, breeding them is great, but you can't just rip a worm out of the dirt and chuck it into your beautifully aquascaped tank. How exactly do we introduce these guys without bringing a massive cloud of compost dirt with them and crashing your pristine water parameters?
It's all in the prep. First, put the worms you want to feed into a small container of water. Give them a really thorough rinse to get all the external dirt off. Now, unless you're keeping massive monster fish, you need to chop them. For fish with smaller mouths or tricky throat structures, like our fancy goldfish, this is absolutely critical to prevent choking. Use a pair of titanium scissors, since titanium won't rust, and chop them into bite-sized pieces. Here's the key. Chopping them naturally releases all the soil trapped inside their digestive tracts. Give those chopped pieces one final rinse to wash that internal dirt away, and boom! You're left with pure, clean protein ready to be sucked up in a turkey baster or dropper and fed to your fish.
Got a picky eater? If your fish have been raised strictly on pellets, they might ignore the worms at first. Veteran hobbyists have a genius workaround. Just mix your freshly chopped, clean earthworms with a little bit of thawed, frozen bloodworms. That super familiar, strong bloodworm scent transfers right onto the earthworms. It tricks the fish into taking that first bite, and once they taste how rich the earthworm is, they'll usually devour them without a second thought from then on.
By embracing vermiculture, you can sustainably supercharge your aquarium's health, boosting everything from growth and digestion to breeding success. It's truly amazing. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought to ponder. If nature engineered the absolute perfect fish food right beneath our feet, what other incredible natural solutions are just waiting to be unearthed in your own backyard?